Hey guys, Nick Kringas here, and today I want to share a little story and talk about scoreboards. So scoreboards are super important, and here's why. So before we had scoreboards kind of all over the company, and we're getting better. We have them basically all over the company. We have them for most departments. We have a financial scoreboard, that's our company scoreboard. But after looking at the sales and marketing scoreboard, we start with just reporting the numbers on that scoreboard. There are about 6 or 7 lead measures, things that we can control, or drivers in GGOB language. And there are a handful of lag measures, things that we can't control, results, the effects of those drivers. For the first month or two, we've been, after we've rolled out the scoreboard, we've been focusing on just reporting the numbers, making sure that we can gather the numbers, making sure that they make sense, that there's something that we want to be looking at on a regular basis. And yesterday in our sales and marketing call, we see that we got 13 people interested. I think it was in the last week. Yeah, I think it was in a week's time, but that's besides the point. So we had 13 people interested, but we only had 1 appointment set out of those people that raised their hands as interested. So there's a big gap there, right? Like 13 people said, I'm interested, tell me more, but we only got 1 appointment set. So where is that gap? Where are people dropping off? What happened to the other 12 people that said they were interested? And if we didn't have that scoreboard to clearly look, hey, there's 1 appointment set for 13 people that said they were interested, we would have never known that that was the critical thing. That was the one thing that we need to focus on, the biggest constraint, if you will, to focus on that would move our business forward in a big way. So it's a high impact activity and it's a low effort activity to correct this one little issue and to work on this one specific metric, which is getting more people that say they're interested on the phone for a strategy call. So we brainstormed a little bit about how to do that. But the point of this video is to tell you that without scoreboards, without that particular scoreboard, we would have never seen that this is the one thing that we need to be focusing on right now to get better. More on scoreboards. So we're working on creating a scoreboard for our content team. And they already have a tracking sheet that they use for their processes, from getting content ordered with our writers, what they should write on, all the way through to getting it back from the writers, getting it edited, and getting it published. That's all in a tracking sheet that we call the holding tank. I don't remember why we called it the holding tank, but anyway, that's not a scoreboard. And I tasked somebody with creating a scoreboard for the content team with the handful of metrics that we can look at to know at a glance if the team is doing a good job, if we're winning or losing within that specific department. And the person came back to me with a scoreboard, or an idea for a scoreboard. I didn't see the actual scoreboard, but they were telling me about how it's almost ready. They are creating sheets they're creating a sheet that's now connected to the holding tank to automatically pull these metrics. And part of the scoreboard and part of the magic of a scoreboard is actually having each line item owner pull those numbers, go and find those numbers, tally up the numbers to see if they're winning or losing. So because the ultimate goal is not reporting with the Great Game of Business, it's going to be for each line item owner to forecast out what their number, what their metric, what their line item looks like. Even on these content or even on these department scoreboards, they're going to be forecasting out what they look like for the rest of the month or for that month that we're in. So I didn't see how that was possible if it was automated, if these numbers were being pulled from a different sheet and the totals were being tallied automatically. I thought that would hamper us from getting to where we need to go. And the technology there, the automation would be a crutch, and it would give people an excuse not to tally up their numbers and not to get really acquainted with those numbers. So I think it's really important to keep it simple. Another example of that is we have scoreboards for our clients. And up until now, we haven't called them scoreboards. Up until rolling out the Great Game of Business at our agency, we just called them reports, client reports. And it would have a bunch of stats on there. And we wanted to make it more visual, but so I'm looking at the scoreboards that we send clients. I'm looking at the reporting that we send clients, And I'm thinking to myself that this is way too complicated. There's so much information on these reports that it's going to confuse the client. It confused me to look at it. So I wanted to strip out anything that wasn't really important and to make it more like a scoreboard, to make it more like, this is what your competition is doing, or these are the goals that we have set. These are the drivers. These are the things that we can control. And these are the lag measures, or these are the results, like leads coming in or rankings or traffic, the things that we can't control. So I asked the person to simplify it, to cut out anything that wasn't critically important or that we couldn't, I wanted the scoreboard to be, I wanted the report to be like, if we look at it, we'll know within 3 seconds if we're winning or losing. We'll see progress made. We'll see how far we are from goals. I will know right away how we're doing just by looking at the scoreboard. And the person stripped it down to only the essential metrics for the reports. But his next comment confused me a little bit because he said, I think creating a scoreboard is going to take a lot of time and thought. But this is a good start. And I just think that we shouldn't overcomplicate scoreboards. It is a scoreboard. As long as it's something that shows us if we're winning or losing, how far we are from a goal, how we're doing, the progress made, it's already a scoreboard. The time when it doesn't become a scoreboard is when it becomes a 3-page report of anything that we can think of that may look good or may look like progress or that we think would make the report fatter, as if we're trying to show all that we do for the client, which is fine, and there's a time and a place for that. But if we get this report down to just the essential items, and we look at this report and we see progress made, things done, how far we are away from our goal, progress made since the beginning, progress made since last month, etc. And we know at a glance within a couple of seconds if we're winning or losing, that's a scoreboard. There's no reason to complicate it. Yeah, it would be nice to make it a theme or make it around a theme, but team scoreboards at the Great Game of Business, departmental scoreboards in the Great Game of Business, and also the financial scoreboard in the Great Game of Business, those are not themed. Those are simply on spreadsheets that we track and use for forward forecasting. Those are not themed. The only thing themed in the Great Game of Business in terms of a scoreboard is our mini game scoreboard. But the rest are plain and simple reports that show whether or not we're winning or losing. They're not complicated. You can see at a glance if you're winning or losing and the progress made. But to think that a report is not a scoreboard, that's not exactly true. So I don't know where the disconnect was there. But one person was trying to automate the scoreboard, which is not what I wanted, because I want people to be tallying their results, looking at their numbers, and really owning their own numbers. And the other person was saying that, okay, we have this report, but it's going to take a while before I can get it into a scoreboard. For whatever reason, he was thinking that wasn't a scoreboard. So let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just get the handful of items, either drivers and fewer lag measures or results, but let's get the handful of KPIs and KPOs. Same thing, basically. KPIs are things we can control. Key performance indicators. KPOs are key performance objectives, things that we can't control or the results of our actions. Let's get the handful of metrics that tell us how we're doing in a given team or for a given person or for the company as a whole. And let's not complicate it to think that a scoreboard needs to be this crazy thing, because it doesn't. A scoreboard in a sporting event is not even usually themed, right? You're looking at the score, you're looking at what down it is in football, the time that's left, and you know right away if you're winning or losing. So it doesn't have to be themed. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated, and it shouldn't be automated, because the goal of the scoreboard is to be able to forward forecast for each number in the scoreboard for the month that you're in, and eventually put it up against a benchmark or a goal for the month and plan that out for the entire year for each department. So you can see how we'd have a clear view of each department, how they're affecting the overall success of the company, and whether that department, whether that person or the company as a whole is winning or losing, just by looking at each of these scoreboards, which are super succinct and they just tell us what we need to know at a glance in a few seconds. So that's my spiel on scoreboards. That's a couple of things that I've ran into while launching these scoreboards. This is really level 2 implementation of the Great Game of Business. So as a coach, we're taught level 1 is to kind of get the design team involved, launch launch the great game of business. And then level 2 is getting scoreboards into each department, playing the game, getting people better at the game, and so forth. So just always remember, people support what they help create. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out. And as always, thanks for watching.